And welcome back to the Hero Gauntlet. Tonight we have the wonderful, the curious, the big and small Alice. As her opponent is going to be the sailor, the adventurer, the man who went on the 7 voyages, Sinbad. So looking at the deck of Alice, remember she can go big and small throughout the game. She starts as big or small, as however you want to choose, but she has to make some foe who can get up to a nice meaty 9 damage, as well as that looking glass that can put her anywhere. Now Sinbad can just basically travel anywhere based on his speed, with the increasing number of voyages in your discard pile, as well as being able to utilize some of his versatile cards, such as Toil and Danger, just to get out of the way. Now here's how Alice has been doing so far in her matchups. Now let's see how she does against Sinbad. So let's go into the first matchup here between Alice and Sinbad. They're on Sinbad's home map of Sarpedon. We see Alice on the ship as Sinbad is in that first player spot over on the land by those ruins with the petrified bodies. Now, if you go over here, I decided to start small to try to, make sure I had those defenses put into place. But also, just in case if I needed to just run and change size, I can actually turn into big to deal some massive damage. I wanted the Jabberwock near the gangplank there just so that I can be able to keep him within fighting distance of Sinbad. The AI kind of left me wide open to move Jabberwock right next to Sinbad. And I decided to go after him with a Claws That Catch in the hopes of dealing some massive damage. But he threw down Feint, which canceled the effect on Claws That Catch. So I only deal 1 damage because of that. Really good play on the AI's part right there, to try to kind of hold off that massive amounts of damage. And that kind of makes sense. If you're playing against Alice, you're probably going to be feinting a lot of the Jabberwock's cards. Now the Sinbad is going to attack back at the Jabberwock. I have the choice of Regroup or Momentous Shift. I went with Regroup just because of the fact that the Jabberwock has that nice big 8 health. So I thought I could be able to at least stave off some of that damage, but I kind of desperately needed cards in my hand at this point in time, so I wanted to make sure that I kind of kept that up as I was going throughout the game. I wanted to make sure I had options in my hand. So luckily that was a really good interaction there, just to have the Jabberwock take a damage. But Sinbad was able to heal, so he was able to get back that health I was able to deal to him. As we're going on to here, now at this point, Sinbad is coming after the Jabberwock. I do defend with Momentous Shift. That Toil and Danger is able to get Sinbad into the green zone, trying to keep his distance away from me. As I'm trying to kind of figure out now what's my best way of attack, because of the fact that the Jabberwock is so close, but Alice is so far away. So I try to move Alice a little bit closer, going through the gangplank into the yellow. I go right after Sinbad with the Jabberwock. I need to keep the pressure early in the game because of the fact that, like I said before, Sinbad is going to be very wily and he's going to be able to move an incredible number of spaces for each of his turns. So I wanted to make sure to be able to deal some damage to him in the early game while I can stay close to him. So I go in with a Jaws That Bite with the Jabberwock. He feints that as well. Like I said, really good interaction for Sinbad, but I still get 2 damage on him. So it was a decent trade for me, even though I got that 2 auto damage canceled. So the Porter now moves up right next to Alice and goes after me. Now, I am a small Alice, so I get that +1 to defense. So I'm kind of figuring out what I would like to do at the moment. I decided to go with I'm late with that 3 value, but they're going to throw down that 5 value Momentous Shift to deal 2 damage to me over my defenses. But now I get to move up to 5 spaces and change size into big. I'm late is really good if your opponent is far away and you need to become big, or if you're really hurting and that you're already big, it's really good to get away from your opponent with those 5 movement. It's really helpful. So I put myself within a space of Sinbad to set myself up for this turn. So now I have Vorpal stay on me. I'm big. I have an option here to maneuver, see what I get for a card. I get Make Some Foes, so I do feel like I am going to be okay on the opponent's turn. I do have 2 defense options if I need it, and I decided to go with Vorpal for 6. He has no defenses. Huge attack at this point. Deals some massive damage in the early game. This is why you keep the attacks on Sinbad in the early game, because now he's going to start adding more and more of those voyages into his discard and get away from me. But with Vorpal, luckily the after combat effect is to change size, so now my defenses are just that much bigger. I decided to go with Mad as a Hatter as my defense because of the fact that it's 4 value while I'm small. And guess what? It turns out to be of great value for me. He attacks me with a 3 value voyage that gives him card draw, so he is going to be able to refill his hand, but I'm able to move out of that space. So even if he wanted to attack me again, he's not going to be able to, because I'm going to be able to move the Jabberwock and Alice. I want to stay relatively far away, but I kind of wanted to keep the Jabberwock somewhat centrally located there, just to keep an eye on Sinbad. And I wanted to move Alice a little bit further away from him, so he had to actually make the choice to go after me, and eventually I could try to pin him. But the AI is, smart enough to stay away. I am able to maneuver with her, and I decided to go with another maneuver just to refill my hand. I need to get cards and options as best available. He maneuvers and attacks me with the Porter. I kind of thought this was a commanding impact because it's a nice big 5 value. But as a small Alice, I did see the value in having more cards in hand. He hits me with the Leap Away. That deals 3 damage. That really hurt. That was a really big hit. And the thing is, I am able to get the card draw, but it was a pretty good chunk of damage dealt to me at this point in time. Definitely keeping pressure on me at this point. I now have to kind of think about what I'm going to do here. So I decided to look at, a few of my options. I maneuver because I'm nowhere near to attack. And I am big, and I want to make sure I turn the small on their turn. So that way I could be able to have some beefier defenses to deal with. So I do Drink Me. I play the card Drink Me. We're going to interrupt the game right now for our halftime report. So looking into the stats here, it looks like Alice is doing pretty well with that nice 9 combat damage with the 11 damage blocked. We also have a 1 health recovered on the side of Sinbad. 17 cards left compared to 15. Let's see how it goes. So at this point in time, we see some kind of maneuvering going around here. And the Porter gets onto the other side of Alice and starts to attack. This could be a few things. It could be a momentous shift. It could be a few, it could be a commanding impact. You never know. Ends up being another Leap Away, which actually is a decent trade for me at this point. So I do take a damage from that with Alice, but I am able to move Alice into any space, draw 2 cards, or recover 3 health. I decided to go with the health and movement, so I decided to place her closer to Sinbad, who seems to be wanting to stay as isolated as possible now, right over there. And one thing I did overlook was the fact that with Leap Away, they get to move you 4 spaces away from them, so it ended up being a little bit of a kind of a detriment to me, being pushed all the way back there. But I at least got a little bit closer. I don't think I think I'm actually the same distance away that I would have been if I stayed in that same spot. But it is what it is. So with the Jabberwock right now, I'm maneuvering, deciding where I want to move the Jabberwock. I want to attack Sinbad with Jaws That Bite, So I decide to discard Eat Me, because I know there's another copy of that somewhere in my deck. And I decide to move the Jabberwock right next to Sinbad, and I put Alice in that Tri-Zone space. So Jaws That Bite does get fully blocked by Exploit, but I am able to have the Jaws finally bite into him and deal 2 damage. So I still get a decent trade-off there with that card. Now, on Sinbad's turn now, he's going to go after the Jabberwock, try to take the Jabberwock down. I have to kind of think about what I want to use as a defensive card. I decided to go with Feint, and it ended up being a huge feint, getting rid of Voyage Home, so he's not able to recover those Voyage cards into his hand, and the fact of it is that it's another Voyage card I'm able to get rid of. The only thing is now is that he's just going to keep boosting up those Voyage cards in his movement even further, which is another kind of trade-off that you have to go on with feinting a Voyage Home. So I have to kind of figure out what I want to do on my turn here. He's over in the red zone. There are some spots I can trap him within. The thing is that I would have to boost my movement or try to maneuver the Jabberwock onto that red space that is kind of the intersection with the purple, and do that. It is one thing I did overlook when I was actually playing, that I could have actually put the Jabberwock onto that red space right next to where I ended up leaving him, to try to block Sinbad's movement from getting out of there, which is essentially exactly what he did. So that was definitely a huge overlook on my part. But I am going to maneuver again and try to get Alice closer down towards that intersection. The intersection tends to be one of the most important ones on this map from my own experience. And so I go right after him with the Jabberwock. I decide to use Manxome Foe because Manxome Foe always has a decent chance of becoming a larger attack. He throws out Toil and Danger. I get the Looking Glass as the discarded card. So that is a 7. A massive 7, dealing 4 damage to Sinbad. And then he uses Toil and Danger to move right next to Alice, feeling the necessity to try to weaken Alice as quickly as possible. So he goes after Alice. I use a nice meaty 5-value Skirmish against his 5-value Voyage, which is a huge defensive maneuver here. I was able to win the combat to be able to move Sinbad 2 spaces. I move him right next to the Jabberwock, forcing him to have to try to get the heck out of there. And which he does, flying all the way to the western end of the board into that bluish-gray zone. So now that I'm over here on this Tri-Zone space, I know I have to rush the Sinbad because he's down to 1 health now. I weakened him so much with that aggro. I need to continue going forward to try to end this guy. So I decide to try to at least maneuver twice, refill my hand, get myself a bit closer to him. But with his maneuver ability going all the way up to 6, it's going to be really tough to deal with that guy. So we see him move into the green. The Porter is going to be up there to try to at least block potentially some of my movement. It goes in right after me. I have I'm late, which works up against the Momentous Shift, which is going to deal 2 damage to me. The Porter really doing his job here for the Sinbad. Sinbad really hasn't done much, but the Porter has definitely done a number to me. And I decided to rush right up there next to Sinbad and turn into big size. And now that I'm large, and in charge. And I have a chance here to actually deal some massive damage to Sinbad. So I go in with this Manxome Foe that is a base 5 now against his exploit. I discard a 1 boost value card, dealing 1 additional damage over his remaining health, bring him down to -1, and Alice is victorious in this battle. So let's look at the final stats here. Alice dealing a beautiful 17 combat damage compared to Sinbad's 9. Blocking 24 damage, healing 3. With 1 scheme played, leaves Alice with a 4.80 efficiency rating. Huge! With leaving Sinbad at 1.40. A huge difference in this fight. Just goes to prove that Alice is the best. So going into the final stats, Alice won 2 out of her 3 rounds. And now let's move on to the next hero.